Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bendigo Bank MCDFNL Footy Show for another week. Once again, here with you to bring you all of the happenings throughout the Bendigo Bank, Maryborough and Castlemaine District Football and Netball League. Sean Kelly's my name. Sam Gale is with me as always. Welcome, my friend.
Pleasure to be alongside you.
Another very interesting weekend last weekend.
Very, very interesting.
Now, off the top of that, we're not talking AFL this week, are we?
No,
Not
AFL,
a word of it.
no.
Just let's leave that alone. Let's get straight in to the senior footy results from last weekend. Starting with the game between Newstead and Avoca. Newstead 9-13-67, defeating Avoca 7-13-55. Newstead's first win of the year, which we'll touch more on later on as one of our talking points for the week. Royal Park 21-7-133, defeating Campbell's Creek 6-9-45. Navarre 27-17-179, defeating Denali 1-3-9. Harcourt 12-14-86, remaining undefeated against Malden 7-12-54. Samuel.
Maryborough Rovers 11-17-83, downing Trentham 9-14-68. Natty Bialba 13-16-94, getting over Talbot 5-8-38. And Carisbrook touching up Lexington 10-12-72 to 2-6-18.
Yeah, touching up is an understatement there. That was a big win and a big statement by Carisbrook. Looking at the A-grade netball results from the weekend, Avoca 40, defeating Newstead 21. Royal Park 46, defeating Campbell's Creek 17. Navarre 58, defeating Denali 6. Harcourt 33, defeating Malden 28. Trentham 48, defeating Maryborough Rovers 17. Huge win for Trentham. Natty Bialba back on the winners list, 53-9 against Talbot, and Lexington 28, defeating Carisbrook 18 to remain undefeated for the Tigers. Talking points for this week, Sammy. Talking point number one is the Newstead Football Club. They were a talking point for the wrong reasons a few weeks ago. Now they're a talking point for the right reasons, on the board for the first time in 2015, and doing it in style, leading from go to O.
Well done to the boys at the Roos and Nathan Webster with his young side there. Got some good young players coming up the Roos.
They do indeed. Brad Richardson, another week of 3 goals for him, looking a very likely type up forward and just starting to get the benefits. Pat Cummins back into the side for a second week in a row now, adding that bit of experience as well. So Newstead, maybe it's not all doom and gloom.
A bit of a morale builder for the boys down at the Stead.
Great to see Newstead getting up and about for that first win on the weekend. Talking point number 2, after a 10-goal final quarter on the weekend in a demolition job out at Campbell's Creek, is this the Royal Park we were promised pre-season?
Oh, I think we're starting to see what Bushy are capable of. They did talk the talk in the off-season. Everyone knows that. The first few rounds, things looked a little bit shaky. But,
went against some good sides, in fairness.
Yeah, in fairness. But, really, really good win by the Tigers on the weekend. They could be a scary proposition for some sides.
Especially teams go out to Campbell's Creek, and Creek play 5 goals better at home than they do anywhere else. And some teams they can't find out how to win on that ground. Not only did Bushy win, they kicked 6-0 in the second quarter to set up the win. They kicked 10 goals to 2 in the final quarter. Josh Brown with 9 goals really gave them a focal point up forward as well.
Yeah, like you said, some teams do struggle at the Creeker Dome. But, Bushy obviously aren't one of them. And Josh Brown, 9 goals. That's probably the focal point Bushy have been looking for up forward.
Bushy doing a great job. They are beyond the Creeker Dome now, so that is great to see for them. Just sliding a Mad Max reference in there with the movie coming out.
Very, very sharp.
Talking point number 3. Now, this was one that was suggested by the Footy Show family out there as well. They're apparently around Carisbrook at the moment, with the performance of Brady Neal in the ruck, who has been probably one of their best players in each of their games this year. Apparently they're saying Jackson who?
Yeah.
They're calling Brady Bowen. There's just this Jackson Bowen bloke that came second in the Berry Pale medal last year. It's Jackson who now.
Yeah.
He's not being, it's not, you can't say that he's not being missed, because you always miss a player of Jackson Bowen's calibre, but Brady Neal is filling those shoes very nicely.
Yeah, they've just wiped their hands of Big Jacko, and they've got Brady slotted in there nicely. He's probably been in Jacko's considerable shadow for some time now, but seeing what he's capable of.
Yeah, good to see that with Carisbrook as well. And didn't they give Lexington a touch-up on the weekend? Greasy conditions to start the game, as you'd expect with the night game out of Carisbrook at times, but for Lexington to only kick 2 goals during that game shows how dominant Carisbrook were on that night.
Yeah, we know Lexington's got a pretty good forward line. got Matt Brown up there. He's won the goal kicking a couple of times. So to hold them to 2 goals, like you said, some really, really good defensive work.
And the doggy Ross Kohler's in a bit of form at the moment. Another 3 goals on the weekend, and apparently giving a little bit of advice to the Lexington players as well.
Yes, he always enjoys opening his mouth, does the dog. So yeah, but he's in good form and can probably afford to.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're flying at the moment. Carisbrook. Let's have a look at this week's games. Community umpiring round this week, of course, the round where we officially appreciate. We always do every week, but we publicly acknowledge everything that the umpires do to keep the game going and the great job that they do within our football. Remember, no umpires, there is no game, as well as Liam Brady tells me every time I walk through the door and say something about an umpire in this office. No umpires, no game, and they do a great job.
Yeah, Braid's will just be trying to keep his job, I think.
Very much so. Looking at this week's games, Navarre taking on Avoca out at Navarre, and we saw a pretty big win by Navarre against Denali last weekend. Probably be a similar kind of thing. Avoca is struggling with injuries at the moment, cannot put their best team on the park, and are really copping it as a result.
Yeah, like you said, Avoca are struggling a little bit, and Navarre in absolute red-hot form. This could get ugly.
This could indeed. This, I reckon, will be number 27 in a row for Navarre. Absolutely flying. We tipped Ash Driscoll for a bag last week. He saluted with 9 to sit back on top of the charts. May fill his boots again this week, I feel.
Yeah, I'm going to go 7 for the big man.
Yeah, I might pencil him in for 8. I'm confident. The boy will get 2 1/4 and he'll be right.
Yeah, you're just worried if you run into him somewhere that you might badmouth him.
He's a much, much bigger man than me, and I must admit, I'm not as scared as you. You were grasping at shadows every time his name was mentioned last year when you were still playing.
Now that I've retired, I'm still scared.
Still scared, you are indeed. Carisbrook taking on the Maryborough Rovers. Night game once again this weekend out at Carisbrook. Rovers, once again last week, showing a bit of form, and we know how good a form Carisbrook are in, and they'll quite rightly start favourites in this game, but Rovers will have a dip.
They certainly will. Probably be a bit of a rivalry in this one as well. I'm going to go Carisbrook. Obviously, they're in pretty good nick, and under lights, they're pretty hard to beat out there. Yeah,
they are indeed. Carisbrook for mine as well, but expect the Rovers to be in this all the way. They've played a couple of games under lights in recent years, and I reckon they will give a really good account of themselves. Some pretty handy players running around at Jubilee Park this year. Lexington taking on Denali. Lexington, what a game this is. They have not had to rebound all that often in the past couple of years. This time Denali get them on the rebound, and Denali coming off a day where they kicked 1 goal for the day, probably not a good week to get Lexington on the rebound, because I've got a feeling Shane Fisher will probably be angry.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be lining up for the Eagles this Saturday. Like I said, Lexington will be angry. They'll be fuming about how they went last week, so this could get pretty ugly.
Yeah, Lexington in a canter in this one. Another interesting night game being played this week. Trentham up against Maldon. The Trentham bubble burst last week in the daylight. They get back under the night lights, where they've won both their games this year against a Maldon side that showed a bit against Harcourt on the weekend. Hayden Kelly, Sean Birchall, Joel Cross, their 3 mainstays in great form once again, but different story under lights. They come up against a Trentham side that play their ground and play under lights pretty well. This will be an interesting game.
Yeah, and going to tip against Trentham's night form, and I'm going to go for the Dons. I think they've probably just got a little bit too much run. Yeah, I might stick with Trentham in this one. Just I can't fault their night form at the moment. They're going really well. They weren't far off against the Rovers last week, and I reckon they'll get the job done this week in a very, very close game. Newstead taking on Natty Bialaba at Newstead this weekend. The Roos with their tails up once again after their first win last week. We'll find it a bit tougher against the Natty side. They're in form at the moment. Jared Bateson, 3 goals and a best on ground performance last weekend. The assistant coach at Natty, he is proving an absolute godsend on the recruiting front this year. Certainly is providing plenty of run, which is probably what Natty lacked the last few years. And I'm going to go for the Swans, obviously. Yeah, Swans for me as well, but I reckon Newstead will come out, especially early. They'll probably match the Swans in the first quarter and a half, take that confidence out from last week before Natty take control of the game. Royal Park taking on Talbot at Hedges Oval. Poor old Talbot can't miss a trick at the moment, can they? Got dusted again last week. Now they take on Royal Park in a bit of form at Hedges Oval as well on Saturday afternoon, where we know Bushy are a great side in front of their home crowd, and now they've got a bit of confidence behind them after that 10-goal last quarter last week in the win. They'll start this one as pretty warm favourites. They will, like we said before, Bushy is starting to gel together nicely, but I know Talbot's not real happy with their early season form. So they're not real happy with us either, from what I hear. No, they're not. But I'm going to talk them up a bit, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Try and get them back on side. But yeah, I think they'll be out to give a good account of themselves against the Tigers.
You want a straw?
Why?
I don't think you could suck any harder that time. You just absolutely buttering Talbot up something vicious there. I don't think they're going to win this week. I think that Royal Park will win this game. Again, I don't think it'll be through a lack of effort. I just feel that Royal Park are the better side at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Tigers as well.
Sunday games return this week, and it's a pretty big one at Sims Dental Reserve as well. Harcourt taking on Campbell's Creek. Good bit of rivalry between these two sides, playing for the Shaun Smith Cup on the weekend. So, of course, they're not. I've just made that up just then for those that actually take what I say seriously, which is probably 3 of our viewing audience out of the thousands and thousands that watch. So, but in all seriousness, doesn't matter where these two teams are on the ladder, it's always a very good game.
Always a cracker, this one. Plenty of rivalry here, but pretty hard to go against the Lions at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I suppose it's a bit more spice this year with the numbers that have gone across from Harcourt, from Campbell's Creek to Harcourt this year as well. Joel Smith kicking 7 on the weekend, back in a bit of form. He'll be keen to get some goals against his old side as well. Harcourt flying at the moment. We did the form on them before. We can see them being 7 and zip without really extending themselves too much. Then they get to round 8, which is on the 20th of June, and then they come their first test, Natty at Natty. July is a really tough month for Harcourt, so they probably need all of these now. So we look at July, literally there's the 4 games in July. Harcourt have got Carisbrook at Carisbrook, they've got Lexton at Lexton, they've got Royal Park at Harcourt, and then they've got Navarre at Harcourt. So there's probably 4 of the top 6 sides they've got. 4 of the top 6 sides they've got in there, and definitely the top 3.
Yeah, pretty tough stretch. So, like you said, they'll be keen to get the runs on the board early.
They will indeed. Going to be another great week in the Maryborough Castlemaine District Football and Netball League. Thanks for joining us on the MCDFNL Footy Show this week. We'll be back next week with a special interleague edition of the show as well. We'll have some guests from our interleague teams to come in and preview our big WorkSafe AFL Victoria Country Championships fixtures against the Allenbank Football Netball League in the football and against the Ballarat Football Netball League in the netball. Until then, we'll see you next week.